that your election can be as good as your logistic. So where there's logistic failure, you know that you are beginning to fail. Before the election, we had meetings with various groups, including the media and the civil society organizations. And I stated very clearly that as far as the election is concerned, we should be able to determine what is a successful election. And a successful election is based on logistic. Number one, if you want to measure whether an election is successful, you have to determine whether the election started as advertised. And we advertised the election for 8:30. So if we're able to start the election at 8:30, and number two, if the election is peaceful, number three, if we're able to manage the result very well, that is result management, and then declaration of result, then you can say you have a successful election. As a regulatory body, we were determined to achieve all this. But nonetheless, we have to admit that there were some logistic issues. Some were purely human, which we are trying to address. And let me just appeal to Nigerians, because I have noticed now that what Nigerians desire is a perfect election. And INEC will strive as much as possible to give this country the best election. However, we may not be able to achieve 100% perfect election for now. But as far as electronic transmission of results is concerned, I said it before FCT Area Council, that we have the capacity to transmit the results, and that we're going to transmit the results. The only concern was real time. What is real time? For instance, if you use your app to make a transfer from your account, even in Abuja town, you are transferring 50,000 to Mr. B, and from your app, the amount has gone. But the person may not receive the alert until another 30 minutes, another hour, or even in the evening. So those are some of the things. And when you say it is real time, as soon as it is done, it must be received. So result management and logistics are two basic issues that from our own end, we're trying to see how best we're able to manage it very well, so as to enhance the transparency and credibility of the system.
Thank you so much, Prof. I really appreciate it. Can we please put our hands together for Professor Joash Amputa? But we are looking for a member of INEC staff. His name is Glitch. It was being blamed for what happened in 2023. Do you know him? Have you identified him? And I hope he's not going to surface in 2027.
The glitch is eliminated. The glitch, by God's grace, will not surface in Nigeria. And when I even look at the proviso to Section 63 of the Electoral Act, during the last FCT election, apart from that delay, we didn't have any transmission failure. Meaning that it's just a proviso, a safety if it fails. And during my tenure, it will never fail. That is the determination. Yeah. If it fails, if it doesn't fail, then result. Even if it fails, the result must be transmitted. But the only problem is if it fails to do real-time transmission, as we had in that word, that is the major problem. Right. Now, addressing about the glitch, election now anywhere is about technology. But before you deploy any technology, it is important for you to test that technology very well. So my own audit of the 2023 election is to the fact that while the BVAS was tested within the state for Osun election, Ekiti election, however, when it came to the federal election, especially the presidential election, that now became interstate, it was not properly tested. So one of the things we are trying to do before the election, we're going to have a mock presidential election so that we are sure that this transmission across the state must not fail.
Thank you so much, Prof. So the guarantee, and I wish that you can look into the camera and promise Nigerians that under Professor Joash Amputa, election of 2027 will be the best ever. Is that a promise that you can give us?
By the grace of God, election of 2027 will be the best election that Nigerians will have. Because Nigerians of 2023 is different from what you have in 2027. People are much more aware And you know the correlation between election and development. Nobody is happy about the classification of Nigeria as an underdeveloped country. So we want a situation where our process will be able to guarantee the confidence and the legitimacy that people will want to see in their system. So by the time you have a transparent election and people begin to trust INEC and trust their leaders, then the country will move forward.
The first, okay. About the electronic my president, I'm here on behalf of my president, Masuya. We know that it's possible.
It's a glitch. Just a moment. They will come to you. Just a moment. Just hold on for a moment. Let me come to Ejina Wafo. Interested, I want to start on the issue of technology. Where we were in 2023 and now, what exactly has changed, technologically speaking?
So when you say what has changed technologically, is it the network that will transmit, or are you asking in terms of the law?
There was a glitch in 2023.
Yes,
there are debates that we do not have the capacity. But you being an INEC, the beavers, almost all those technology we use in 2023, in 2019, in 2015, you were the head. Yes. You saw it through.
Yes.
Tell us, what has changed?
Okay. For me, the new Electoral Act has given us hope. Let me explain clearly. In the new Electoral Act, you have now IREV in the Electoral Act. Whether we like it or not, we don't have 100% network. We know that. But as at the time we did that design, we had about 93 to 94% 2G. As of today, we are talking about 86 to 89% in terms of the 3G. You can compress your data and use 2G and send your information. Now, that is not the issue. The issue is that there's this word, real time. What is real time? Real time, you finish your election. I am not a lawyer, I'm an engineer. Real time, you finish your election, count it, and when you finish counting it, you send two information. One, the accredited voters. Because Nigerians have just forgotten that there was a time 200 people will come to vote, results will be 2,000. So right now, we send accredited voters and also snap the result and send. There are two possibilities. Which one is that you must snap it and send. The two possibilities that will happen is that maybe it did not go because of network availability. If I have 86% in terms of 3G, so I'm working with only 14%, that is the maximum. Even 2G can, but I want to talk about only the 3G, 86% or more. But I tell you one thing, the moment you move from polling unit to the ward, you get more network. And if you notice, if you send a message through your ordinary phone and it didn't go, as you are moving, once you get a network, it's sent. And our result has its own transfer because you have to send the result from polling unit to the ward as you are collecting from ward you go to. But let me also give you another. I like this Electoral Act. I will tell you what can make it work better. Once you sent that result, you've sent accredited voters number, which means how many people came to vote. And you send that result in terms of allocation, but now on paper. People should go to Electoral Act and see that this law says we have to have what we call digital electronic results in a database. INEC needs to have it. So INEC needs to also develop, it's in the law, in the Electoral Act, develop the electronic digital result, not only on the Form EC8A. And people want to look at this Form EC8. I want to give, if you snap from EC8A and transfer it, what will make it to change? There are two things. Because if you snap it, it's the original that you have snapped and it goes. What will make it to change? One, somebody may have gone to trying to change some results. As a collation officer at the ward and at the local government, You have access because INEC will give you a BVAS. You have access to see the results of what has been transmitted and take your decision. All these are in section 60 up to 60. You will see it there. So what I beg the commission, because I don't know when I will have another time, is that three things. One, the commission have to take look at section 50 and section 70 of this Electoral Act. You have the right to develop your regulations and the guidelines. And in these guidelines, you develop it step by step in taking decision wherever there's a conflict. Number two is the security agents. Security agencies need to work with INEC in such a manner that when these results are not collected and sent in a particular place, help the citizens so that nothing will happen. And then the last, the judiciary. They need to know the intent. By the time you begin to look at evidence, at all those things about law, the intent of the law goes away. And that was why IREF, they said in the Supreme Court judgment, that's not a part of the law. Today is not a part of the law. That's why I say there's an improvement in this law.
Right.
Let's all work together to get it done.
Let me get Mr. Oluwole Osazuuzi to join. But let me quickly ask.
Yes.
You're not longer in INEC.
Yes.
But for the benefit of Nigerians who are watching now, the INEC server
Yes.
and the IREF, could it stand the stress test at that time? Was it the reason why it collapsed on the day that we needed it?
INEC has given, you see, these questions come, INEC has given their own, that is what we call official reason. Even the chairman, you know, the chairman made a statement. He is close to it. There are three things about any information system. Number one is the technology. Our technology is good. Process, it is how you want it to happen.
But they hacked into it, don't forget.
The people are the people that use it, both internal and external. For me, one of those issues, because you know I wasn't there at that time, I was at NW, remember? So I need to make it clear. INEC reviewed everything and gave their reasons. And I think the chairman has even made statements on that. And I want to stand on it because INEC made me what I am. And I feel, and I want to believe, because they have a very good guy now as a director ICT, they must make sure something like that do not happen again. That's the only thing I can tell you.
Mr. Oluwole Osazuuzi, polling units and result collation, big battleground that Nigerians need to watch. What has changed in this law regarding those two stations that Nigerians need to pay their attention to?
In terms of administration and management,
Absolutely.
nothing much has changed.
Nothing much has
Next to nothing has changed, actually. Nothing has changed.
We imagine that the law would have empowered us to have transparency. That was why a lot of Nigerians were asking that Section 60 should remain the way it was worked before it got into the Senate, before that debate. And that was why the opposition senators were agitating over it.
Yes.
But in the real sense of it, could this law give us transparency and accountability in result transmission from polling units to the collation centers?
I wish I could say yes to that, and I would beg to disagree with my brother, friend, and colleague. I agree with Professor Ibano. The law has taken us back, taken us way back, because what it has attempted to give in the proviso to Section 60, subsection 2, what it has given with the left hand, it has taken with the right hand. It says, yes, you should transmit the results.
67.
And by the way, I listened to the INEC chairman, and he talked about the transmission. Transmission is actually defined. Transmission means to send, to transfer. It's defined in Section 155 of the Act. And there's a difference between transmission in Section 60 and 62. 62 now deals with the collation. Collation by the collation officer, by the returning officer. So the question of the result being at the end, at the IREV, comes in view when you now start collating. And says the collation officer shall look at it before he starts collating. But you can transmit, and Chidi has explained that you can transmit it and you might not get there immediately. And this issue of real time, no real time, that's real time is not actually the language of law. What probably they should have said, and I'm happy the legislators are here, is say transmit forthwith on the conclusion of counting and signing of the result sheet. Transmit it forthwith. That means immediately. forthwith is the language usually used when you want to say you do it immediately. No, you can transmit it. It's also possible that it will not get to, because of network, not get there immediately. But it might get there, as Chidi has said, immediately you get to where there's network coverage. So the section 62, you say, go ahead and transmit the result. You must transmit the result. But now as a provisor, when you add a provisor to something, you are getting an aberration, you don't have to comply with the main thing which it says, provided that if the result is not transmitted due to network. It says due to network. Who defines what is due to network? Then there's a problem. Then you go to the EC8A. It doesn't say manual, but in terms of interpretation, they now go back to the paper to use in the collation of results. It becomes the primary. The word used by the new Electoral Act becomes the primary source for collation of results. So basically, who is the judge when
there's a failure of network?
The failure of transmission due to network failure? Is it the presiding officer? Is it the network provider? Is it who?
So remind
the initial, it was actually an INEC innovation that, look, you cannot prevent, because your card reader cannot read the fingerprints of a voter, you should allow that voter vote. But record it, because if you don't record it, then there'll be a discrepancy between the figures of accredited voters in the smart card reader and in your EC8A, in your result sheets. So that they might be overvoting. So to ensure that everybody whose name is on the register and who turns up to vote is allowed to vote, you fill the incident form to say this, so that for audit purposes, this is why there's a shortfall or discrepancy. That is why it said fill the incident forms. But now that became subject of abuse, in the sense that people now bypass the smart card reader. They now started just using incident forms. So you have in a community, you can have 90% the smart card reader, which they brilliantly designed and very effective, but maybe 90-something%, I believe. It was that effective. But we now found out that on the field, they now said it was 10% effective. So many other people did not use the smart card reader. When they wanted to cheat, they now started filling the incident forms. So that's the excuse now. Once you give an exception, then the exception becomes the rule. And that's our fear, because it's our recent history. We have witnessed it. So when you say network failure, then you find out that even though there's a 2G has 93, 94%, 3G 86 or 84, 86%, you now find out that when the results start coming up, we view of the fact that so many POs will come and say, sorry, failure of network in more than 50% of it.
Well, thank you so much. There's no glitch from here. So, let's take section 63 that has been so controversial. Now, you make laws to solve a problem. What has been the problem? Movement from polling unit to the ward collation centers. And what RF is just doing is for you to transmit the result from the unit to the RF center. And the major job where we have most of this crisis is the result coming from the unit down to the ward collation center. You see, RF will not solve that. RF will not solve it, because RF is just for others to view. Every agent has a copy of the result moving from the unit to the ward collation center. So by the time the collation officer is collating, every agent is expected to follow and monitor and ensure that what you have is what is being collated. If you are not watching it from the RF or from the physical copy, it is still the same from EC8A that you are checking. It is the result they are holding that you are checking from the RF if it actually comes or not. So the impression we are creating is that probably is a collated result that people are checking on the RF. No, it is just the unit result that goes to the RF. And every agent has it already, including the security officer. They have the result. They are holding it. And that is what is now being compiled on the next level of collation. So we must get that information very well. So if you go to the law, to the amendment, what we said that the presiding officer must transmit after the result has been imputed into the from ECAT must snap and send. And now there's consequence. If you don't do it, there's a sentence for presiding officer that does not do it. So I think we have taken care of who hears or not. So, but the important thing is that you must ensure that your agent gets there. Ensure that your agent check what is happening with what the ward collation officer is recording, because what goes into the ward collation center does not go to the IRF again. It is only the first level of result that goes to the IRF. That is what they are watching from the IRF. So unless we want to go to electronic voting and electronic transmission of the result directly, that will now be collated generally. So we must know what we are doing. What we have in INEC today, it is not electronic voting, it is still our normal voting, and it's the only thing that goes into the IRF is the form ECAT. So what you are watching from the IRF is the form ECAT that you have in your hands, unless someone else is telling me something different here. So
No,
we must get what
things,
the situation is, so that we know what you are actually telling people. So that is the situation for now. That is what you are checking from the IRF is the form ECAT, and that is why it was stated that the form ECAT remains the primary source of collation, because that's what we are watching from the IRF. Unless you know something else, I don't know.
I don't think Senator Ume agree with you.
Nobody in the panel does.
Well, thank you very much. I think this is the crux of the matter. Ability to transmit EC8A to the IRF portal. That EC8A contains every information about the polling unit. Number of accredited voters, number of invalid votes, number of valid votes, scores made by the candidates and the political parties. They are all tabulated in the EC8A1, and then the totals are made. Everybody signs off. Then the law requires that you should transmit it to the IRF portal. The reason for making it mandatory, that result that you have snapped should go to the IRF portal immediately or as soon as it is done, is to secure the result of that EC8A. What is in that sheet will be secured when you upload it to the IRF portal. That IRF portal is not a collation mechanism. But once results begin to change at the ward level, EC8B, then at the local government level, EC8C, you will immediately use the IRF uploaded results to cross-check what is coming out. And you will immediately know when they start manipulating it. So the thing is that if you don't do that, or you give a discretion as to whether to transmit the result immediately upon establishing it, is that when you say provided that there is communication to effect it, you have killed the essence of making it mandatory, because somebody can now claim lack of network to delay uploading the result forever. And there's no way you can compel him to say you had service. There's nobody that will monitor your telephone on that day to know whether you had the network to upload the result. So that is why the proviso has put a K-leg to the intended efficiency of the system. So once you secure the polling booth result, every process, ward level, when you collect at the ward, you transmit to the local government level. At the local government level, you collect again and transmit to the constituency level. But all of them must be in agreement with what has been uploaded to the IRF portal. That is the monitor. So once you dispense it, anybody can make 2,000 to be 4,000, 50,000, and so on and so on. I've seen it. I've been part of election for the past 23 years. And I know that there are places where even when the results have been established, you go to the EC8B, they add it up, somebody will score 172. Then the person who is doing it will put 2 as a prefix. It becomes 2,172. They keep adding it like that up to local government level. And when you complain, They say you can't change it.
That's how they rig elections.
That's the way they rig the election, yes. They say you can't change
That's not
it.
in IREF.
They say you cannot change it.
So that's why the IRF result.
No,
That's why
not the one.
IREF will be a checkmate. IREF portal will be a checkmate to all that. Because as soon as the elections are done, conducted, and results are uploaded, at the comfort of your room, you can be going to INEC portal, IREF portal, you want polling booth 018 in any ward. You go there, you see the result. Anyone you want to check, randomly, you see the result established.
Thank you again for the question. I was trying to say the other time that we're the first to make that statement, supporting the real-time transmission. But like you said, the real-time is the issue. And all we want to do is the government to get it right in elections. We're not against the government. And I'll first break it down to the representation in the law, the technology in the representation in the law. I think the disputes of these technologies has been their representation in the law, which has been taken care of. I've been listening to a lot of lawyers saying smart readers were not admitted in court because it was not represented in the law. But now we have the BVAS and the IREV in the law. So I think that solves that problem so that if anything comes up. And another issue is that people are talking about the brand, saying what happens, are we going to be changing the names of these technologies all the time? I think IREV and BVAS are very generic names. They are not the brand, they are the type of technology. Because as a consultant, technical consultant over many years, when you submit technical specifications, you talk about the type of the technology, let's say for instance, laptop, then the brand, HP and all. So BVAS is a generic word like laptop, in quote. And the bimodal, which also we believe takes care of the manual and the digital. So it has that capacity.
Engineer, let me ask you.
Okay.
Do you think on election day, all of the telecoms company can work together and deliver a good network for result transmission?
Yes, I believe so, because I think we also have the capacity now. And I know the government is also pushing to improve the network, like I mentioned the other time, the Project Bridge and all that. And the telecom companies themselves, for instance, MTN, I think they invested about 1 trillion last year from their reports, and they've been able to cover more spaces. So I believe telecoms operators can come together and make it work. And I would like to speak about the manual part. It should not be an issue. I think we should be looking at how do we solve the disputes that come, like for instance what Senator Ahmed said, how do we solve these disputes when it happens? When India started these real-time elections, they had to inculcate manual behind again as a backup because a lot of disputes came out. And like you saw technology now, the first time the glitch had to change. So we just made provisions for everything. How do we move forward? How do we ensure that the issues that come out in between the IREV, the BVAS, the manual, how do we solve those problems? I think that should be our focus now. But I believe that we have the good technology to try it out in this election.
All right.
Thank you.
And you know what? I wanted to raise something quickly.
I need to clarify something. Please, when you send the result at the polling unit, we always have what they call the RA tech, the local government tech. You know the job? So that the collation officer, when he's collecting the result from the polling unit, we have access to that IREF portal. So that you will check what is in the IREF portal to what you have brought. That's number one. Number two, he has access to the number of accredited voters. So these are the two. And it's in this new Electoral Act. It's there. So what I said that the INEC should bring the procedure and guidelines to make sure that the person who is collecting at the ward must cross-check both what is on the portal for the IREF, which he can see, and the accredited voters are making. This is in section 62(4). Yeah. So for me, it is INEC to bring the guidelines and make sure that that result that was sent to IREF and the one that is moving to ward remains the same.
All right.
If they do not remain the same, they should bring it up. Let people know who changed it. Because let me finalize, sir. From EC8A can either be somebody mutilate it. That's one dispute. Or no mutilation, but different result. INEC needs to give guidelines on which one will the collation officer will take. You cannot go and take a mutilated one when the one on IREV is not mutilated. And if the one on IREV is not mutilated, and the one that also came is not but different result, INEC will take decision and know where is this result coming that is different.
All right.
That is what I feel. So the law is good, but implementation
I
is
need Mr. Nobi, because of our time, to quickly
Thank you very much.
get our views out.
There are 6 key areas where there is a difference. One is Shehu, you have put me as a placard carrier. You have been carrying placard behind the scenes. We are carrying it together. One is the use of technology in elections. The second one is the financial independence of INEC. The third one is the political party primaries. The fourth is the campaign limits, finance limits. The fifth area is a stronger electoral offenses and penalties. You have also inclusion and accessibility. I just want to put the difference to say that when you are looking at the Electoral Act of 2022, it acknowledges the beavers and also allowed transmission. We have to, because the issue of transmission now, we are talking about it as if it never happened or it wasn't there. It was there. The human element brought in the issue of glitches because they had the capacity. The former chairman, I remember, said there was no problem with them that they were able to. And I think my brother here, my neighbor, who also watched the signing of the 2022 Electoral Act from Channels TV that time, will also testify. He has said it. What we are saying is that you can transmit. Transmitting, whether you are talking about real time or not, from that very, where you are credited, the machine is able to do transmission at that time. Whether it connects at that time is secondary. Did you transmit that very moment? That is what we're talking about.
Does it?
And so all of it has that. And so the 2026 makes it mandatory. Why are we even talking of the transmission? It's because of the tribunal, the presidential tribunal, that now says, the transmission is, INEC can use its own rules, where INEC used the guideline. I think that's why we now said, okay, make it mandatory. And that's what the 2026 have done. You have already talked about the financial independence of INEC. We are talking about even the 365. I remember when we were in the struggle for the 2022 Electoral Act. The issue was that it was getting too late. Please do it quickly so that INEC can roll out their work. And now you are saying 6 months before, with procurement and all the bottleneck. So what are we talking about? That is why a new amendment is very, very important. Because what you are saying is, with what is happening now, 2024 budget, I don't know if it has been implemented yet. Not to talk of 2025, and now you are putting that. So if you want to pull that, that's a huge difference, and it's going to make life difficult. The party primaries that we're talking about, they used it in 2022 and now removed back and forth. It has introduced the difference. The civil society organizations are not the politicians. If the parties are not speaking out the way what hurts them, everything is rolled in. The civil society is overwhelmed, but we'll continue to do our best.
Yeah.
For the campaign limits now, presidential campaign used to be 5 billion. And now you have taken, it used to be, for 2022, it's 5 billion. Now it's been taken to 10 billion. And for governorship, it's 1 billion. It's been taken to 3 billion. Many people who want to go in for elections, where are they going to get 1 billion? Another thing we need to look is the source of whatever money that they're talking about. Stronger offenses that we're looking at for 2022, stronger offenses, many people have been arrested in the past. Where are they? What has happened to
let
them?
me, at this point, plead that you allow me to take questions from the floor.
Sure.
Because this is a town hall, and I know that a few people have questions. I see a man there. Please, if you could come forward quickly. So I'll take 2 questions quickly to the panelists. I see Mr. Bolarinwa is, well, I could call him a veteran journalist by the manner of experience that he's garnered on the field. Please go ahead. Your name, your organization, and your question, quickly.
My name is Adebayo Odorin from Dark Communications, AIT Repower. My question is to the engineer, Chidi.
Yeah.
I remember vividly that IREF was first tested at the by-election in Nasarawa State. And I remember at the consultative meeting, you defended it, that it was a huge success. And suddenly, you, who spearheaded the revolution, the beavers, on the eve of the election, you were removed, you were transferred. Will you advise INEC that a person in your position that was removed on the eve of the election, that we now witness a glitch, should he be removed this time around?
Thank you very much. I'll take a second question quickly. Come to the microphone. Thank you so much. Not you, sir. Thank you. There's a second person with a question. That question was directly at you.
I know.
All right. Go ahead.
Good evening, all. Thank you, the organizers. And my question is almost like a suggestion to INEC. Right.
His name.
And I must say,
Good.
a lot has been given. A lot is expected. Okay, yeah.
Close that to
Who are
mine.
you?
Sorry, I'm Dr. Omofoma Daniel from the African Electoral Integrity Initiative, Washington, D.C. Right, I'm a Nigerian. So yeah, I'm making a suggestion because a lot has been said here. We're looking at the integrity of the law, the process, but we're not looking at the integrity of the people. Right, because we might have the right laws, the right processes in place, but we might have the wrong persons handling this whole process. So I think I would suggest to the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission to have some sort of audit of his personnel, integrity audit. And also the second recommendation, technology is not far-fetched. I mean, there's what we can do. We should have election technology, not just regular technology. I've been privileged to work with the commission, and I understand that most of your machines, they use regular SIM cards, just the same SIM cards we all use. So you can have specific SIM cards like the multi-IMSI SIM card that works on the 4 major networks. So if MTN is down, it picks Glo. So with this, there's no downtime.
All right.
I mean, technology works everywhere. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much indeed for that question. So let me allow you to answer that question.
The mic.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yes. Yes, you're correct. But I need to also inform you that we started these digital systems as far back as 2003 when we did OMR4. I was involved. And after that, we ran a lot of programs, a lot of cancellations. I won't say why some of them, but Jega came in and new ideas came in and we brought this smart carrier. Let me say this, we're Africans. People like to cheat. And if you are doing any design, you do the design based on your environment. So the first thing we needed to do is to register people. That was done. We solved that. We moved to the next stage, which is, why should 500 people come to polling unit and you see 5,000 results? So we should make sure at least we record 500, so that even if you want to rig within 500. That was what we used. I'm being honest, as an engineer, you have to look at reality. So we did that. Smart card reader was done, but there was a problem with smart card reader because it can only take fingerprint. We look at facial recognition. We brought in. So my dear brother, yes, we started the beavers and other things at Nasarawa. You did not count all the elections we did from Nasarawa till before 2023 elections, and things were all going well. So whatever that happened in 2023 election, we're all learning. We have to look at what the issues and then improve on it.
All right.
For my movement, the commission has the right to move me at any time because I'm a civil servant. I'm retired now, so I can move anywhere I want.
So quickly, there is an online question I like,
Yes.
because we're not only here physically, there are people also. Jerry sent a WhatsApp message and he's asking, Can we trust INEC to transmit results, and will there be actions against any compromised election result sheet? I think that question is for the INEC chairman who is with us. If you permit me, could you let me pass the microphone to the INEC chairman so that he can...
I forgot to speak about
There's even
a safeguard that we have introduced into Beavers now.
Yes.
of somebody who
Before, at the polling unit, when you are transmitting results, the usual problem has not even been addressed. At collation stage, the collation officer stroke returning officer, they have the power to make some changes. And this can only happen if the result at the polling unit has not been properly reconciled. But now, we have introduced some validation and some safeguard in the Beavers that it will not even go at all. So it's not a question, because before now, what is expected is that the the collation officer must check the results of the physical from EC8A plus what has been compared with what has been transferred to IREF before the result is collated. But most of the time, you discover they don't do it. And then the result will still go to the next stage. So one important safeguard that we have introduced into these Beavers, which we tested during this FCT election, and we are still auditing it, it will not even go to IREF. So if the results on the Beavers accreditation, like he said, there are two stages of transmission to IREF. Number one, the Beavers accreditation, and number two, the result that is sent to IREF. So if there are discrepancies, this time around, it will not go.
Thank you,
So we
Prof.
don't want to have a situation where you have what you have in IREF is different from what you have with your party agents. Thank you
so
very
Prof.
much.
I appreciate it. What the electoral law, the amended electoral act, are you satisfied with those the alterations in relation to party nomination and party activities?
Thank you. I think it's good. It's good in the sense that now we have direct primaries or consensus. And with these direct primaries, for the first time, the voters will actually be considered as significant. But it's unfortunate that they are only considered when it's time for election rather than in terms of governance. And also, maybe it will help in drive for more registration, voter education, and in terms of membership growth. But also, it's important to note that the aspect of indirect primaries has been taken out, because this colonization of delegates or the purchase of delegates is no longer going to exist, and it's really a good thing. But somehow I'm sad, because what I wanted to see as part of the law is we see lots of defections happening. When people defect, they lose the membership of that party, but they don't lose the seat. They go along with the seat. So I was expecting that, considering the membership of a party, which is something we really have to consider, is the fact that if people defect, I think they should lose that membership, because it will now help us to think through as who is actually loyal to a party.
Just
because,
like we see a lot of defection to the APC.
Now, I didn't say that, but because you also have to define what membership is. Membership is not just registration. It's also loyalty. And we can see that with all the defections, there's absolutely no loyalty. And my final point here is that I think in this country, historically, we have gone through elections after elections. But the issue of governance is not considered. But for me, there's a correlation between between democracy and literacy. Because if you want to have members of your own political party to have the capacity and the competence for critical thinking and to decide who can actually represent them, I think that education is really important. Because you cannot run democracy in a country that half of it have not gone to school. And for me, this is really a problem, because whether you are going to have direct primaries, people still have the money to purchase these members who are actually going to vote, because people have actually been dispossessed and disempowered.
All right. Professor, I mean, there's a particular dart, maybe unintentionally shot at your party, because you are the party that is receiving everyone. Yeah. You will have had people with empty chairs now if the policy as being pushed by a father is effected, that those who move should lose their seat. But your party is doing digital registration. And other political parties, it seems you knew that this was going to happen. So you started on time. And other political parties like the ADC said, they're not really, they are rejecting INEC timeline because of that clause. But tell us about the alteration in the law. It looks like it suits your party more.
Yes, it suits us, but we never had any advantage because APC set up a committee to start digitization in 2015. It didn't work. The committee was revitalized again in 2019. And then in 2023, after the election, the president set up the committee to implement the drive. I took over as the chairman of the party, and I just pushed it to a new level. Enforce and implement all the programs that were there before. So I only implemented what was on ground. And what we also pushed to the next level was to use not just ordinary registration, but to do a handshake with NIMSI. So because any organization in Nigeria can request for a handshake with NIMSI, so that we use the NIN of our own members, and we collect our primary data from NIMSI, so that we make sure that gives us an advantage that anybody registered in APC now is a Nigerian by birth and also Nigeria by origin. So it gives the advantage of having only Nigerians being members of APC. That's number one. Number two, it avoids ghost registration. So everybody in APC, we know your address, we know your phone number, we know your home, we know we have your biometric. So any data about the person we already have. So we're not just working on just the primary election, but we're working actually for our sake. We want to be sure that we can communicate all our members. We can mobilize our members. So the e-registration was not just meant for primary election. It was actually meant for mobilization, identification, and rewarding of our members also. So it was a step taken in a good direction. But for me, what is the lesson for us to learn from it? First, this will allow political parties to conduct more transparent primary election, especially allowing for the direct primaries. The register now will be more credible. But is there an advantage of having even the direct primaries? The answer is yes. I was an INEC commissioner before, and almost all political parties prefer indirect primaries, where delegates are sought after, and election can be concluded by under a board, or few gatekeepers, or few middlemen, buy off the election. So why is it that almost all political parties prefer indirect primaries to direct primaries? Why is it that you have three options of consensus, direct and indirect, but almost all the political parties will go for one option, delegates? Now, with the indirect primaries now, because direct primaries now, it allows for democratization. It allows participation at the grassroots. It moves the primary election from boards and gatekeepers and middlemen to the people, to the people. And members now can feel being part of the process. And if you can win your primary, if you can win the primary election, you've already mobilized your members completely and collectively feel being part of the process, and you can almost be sure of winning your election. And that would throw up more candidates that are more people-oriented.
Is it fair that people took the mandate from another political party that saw them into office and they have taken it into your party? Is it fair?
Very fair. Very fair, because they discovered that these political parties are already dying, and some of them, they also saw the reason to join us, because they saw the things, the things we're doing as a party, from party management to party organization, to party mobilization, AP seems to be the best party in terms of mobilization, organization, and governance. And that gives a leeway for the, it's just, it's a competition. I go to a market, I have a choice to make. A choice between good governance, good party governance, good party management. You're assured that if you're in this party, you have more transparent system. I'll give an example. We had a primary in Osun, and we had the consensus. And all the 9 candidates in Osun agreed that they want only one person to be the candidate. No political party, no party in Nigeria has had consensus without going to court. Only APC has done that in 2 states. And if you look at also our primary elections that we've been conducting, we've been doing, we're the only party that has been conducting direct primaries since 2015 and 2019. We've been conducting direct primaries as a preferred option. So most of the people who are on the other wing that are seeing the dress rehearsal of good governance, good primary election, and good option in us, of course, they'll make a choice of coming to APC.
All right, thank you, Professor Yitwada. Dr. Sam Amadi, what are the worries of the ADC? The party has officially come out to reject INEC timelines, basically based on some of these issues that has been raised. What is the position of the ADC?
I think the ADC's position would be the position of most Nigerians, essentially, because the political party does not exist outside society. Again, Prof is my good friend, very brilliant and nice gentleman. But I want to remind you that one of the so-called direct primaries of 2015 or 2019 actual election resulted in about 40 million votes from the primary for President Buhari, which was more than actual votes of members. So, so let's not romanticize direct primaries. So you have a direct primary when the outcome of the primary itself, the vote is far more, not even the vote of the election is not up to 20% of the primary. So that tells you the quality of that direct primary. And look at the problem here. No doubt about, you see, the theory around primaries is that you want members of the parties to express their will. Now, if you look at models across the world, delegate elections are not even indirect so-called delegates, are not themselves as we think about them. Because if you go to the US, many do caucusing, many do primary, many do delegates. But the process is always clear. The rules are clear. So people know how do you emerge as a delegate. So I don't want us to put too much, beauty around direct. That's the first question. The second question is INEC. Again, and that ties back to the issue why people defected. Some people are in safe seats, what we call safe seats, where they are doing well as governors. They don't seem to have problem, but they defect because they have no confidence in the integrity of the election. I'm sorry to say, nothing the chairman of INEC said this evening inspires confidence in the integrity of the 2027 election. His understanding about what makes a good election are logistical. But if you look at, and by the way, if you look at an election dispute, 2023 election, the dispute was never around. Ballot box came by 5 p.m. It didn't come early. Every issue is around the integrity of that vote itself. And so I would want them to speak more around how do we ensure that when people vote, result and vote align, result declared and the result of vote align. He didn't say that. And that ties back to the crisis we have with INEC. Look, yes, it's good to talk about open primaries, direct primaries. But this is a party, you are giving them a period of time to organize, submit electronic register as credible, again, conduct those indirect primaries for all political office elections across the country. So the point is this. AP said I was commending him as a former commissioner, maybe he has insider knowledge. APC's head start, okay? So now you're going to create a crisis for other parties. And that speaks, sir, going forward. In 2023 election, to the second, INEC did a very terrible thing. I was a regulator for 5 years at least. INEC is first and primarily a regulator, not a transaction agency. You cannot, on the eve of primary, the parties came and said, INEC, extend the time for us. INEC said, no extension. PDP hurried and did a primary convention. On the eve of PDP's convention, INEC gave 1 week for APC to redesign. That is Regulation 101, fundamental flaw. You must keep very even balance for everybody. Again, you can't issue election timetable as a final product without giving the parties drafts and say, on record, give us articulation of how you see this proposed calendar. Because ultimately, it's for the benefit of the political. So they give you their input and say, Mr. Chairman, look at, you have a problem. I know, the law is this, that. Please, this time is too short. So you reason with them and provide reason. Now, this is not theoretical. Every work that you do, sir, has to proceed from what you call decision-making on record. 1, evidence-based, reason, and communicated to them and their feedback in writing. Why is it important? It allows for judicial review effectively. It allows for integrity of process. Again, that comes to the issue of technology. In the last FCC election, that allegation was that beavers are now in people's hands. We don't even know the integrity of the technology. So my question will be this. As an ADC or any other party or any Nigerian civil group, you need to, we finished 2023 election with so much allegations, so much issues. National Assembly did not conduct one public hearing. Nobody would put it on oath, neither Mahmoud, nor all the officers, to tell us what happened. That is shambolic. There is nowhere in the world that what comes out of it is credible. So the minimum is two things to conclude. First, there should be a bipartisan audit commission of INEX technology. Nobody should place confidence in INEX deployment of technology. The minimum is professionally tested by sort of engineers, bipartisan, to say, tell us how you procure beavers, show us clearly the security, the guarantee that these beavers are not in people's hands. In Edo, fake election results were printed and used. INEC admitted them. So we can't be talking about elections. You see, the problem with Nigeria is that we have no rigor of administration, rigor of process. How, for example, does the chairman of ADC or Labour Party know anything about your guarantee of process? What do you have guarantee? Do they know? Okay. There should be a public certified procedure to say, even if you want to do direct primary, look at the considerations of time gap, to fill in the membership card, to put up logistics, to go across the country. And by the way, last point, if you look at the law says direct or consensus. The same law now says if political office holders want to be delegates, how do you become delegates in a direct primary? That means there was a lot of incoherence and lack of clarity about that law.
Thank you so much. Ms. Vanessa Gregory, what are your views? Do you think that this law gives the political parties to give us the kind of candidate that will make Nigerians proud? No, I'm talking about Ms. Gregory. Sorry, sir. No, Ms. Gregory, sorry.
No problem. So in my opinion, I would say it is twofold. So we have a law that works, but the problem is the people enacting the law behind the scenes. The law fails to account for the different power structures, so like godfatherism and the actors within, So as long as the law is created and people follow it to the T, there's loopholes that the law does not account for. And I feel like those are the loopholes that will be manipulated and not bring out the best candidates.
So the crux of the matter is there are those who have had issues with the kind of candidates that we've had in the past. And I mentioned this earlier, that it is what the political parties give us on the ballot. We can't choose outside of what the political parties have given us. And a lot of Nigerians who run away from joining political parties in the private sector, eggheads, those who have jackpot, those who are. But the new law, as it's framed presently, especially the modality of nomination and party primaries, if you add your way, what would you have infused or removed?
So I'm going to bring it back to gender. I feel like there's a lot of qualified female candidates that get filtered out at the primaries, you know. One good thing about this law is that if a woman has, a female candidate, or aspirant has good grassroots support, then she can use that as a means to pull through the primaries. But you know, the law does not provide for gender quotas. It doesn't give equal access to women. So if I had a choice and what to put into the law, I would put in gender quotas, because you know, we keep clamoring about we need more women in you know, all these positions. But if they're filtered out from the very beginning, we're never going to see them at the positions of governorship, presidency, whatever you want to call it, because you need to be in the game to be able to play.
Thank you. Let me go to the IPAC chairman. The document, the electoral law, is literally the political party's document as it looks. In your own view, are you satisfied?
No, I'm not. I am satisfied with a few. First, the idea, the provision that Nigerians can easily have access to voters' card. Okay, that's a welcome development. At least it opens the door. So let's look at democracy. It's the concept of democracy. It is something you have to embark on based on choice. The door to participation must be open to include every segment of the society. So whatever you do, whether deliberately or otherwise, that will exclude any segment of the society, it is injurious to democracy. It is a welcome development to have electronic register of political parties. Yes. So at least you now know who is who. Okay, if they are Nigerians, they are not Nigerians. But the timing, for instance, APC, the chairman is here. They have perfected some of these things before. Some parties do not know that this will come, like my party too, and other parties. Then we have only 1 month or like 6 weeks to embark on electronic voter registration with NIN and other requisites.
Yeah.
So it is good, but the timing, it is too close that people will not be able to meet up. And if parties are not able to meet up, or some Nigerians are not able to meet up, what you have done is you have disenfranchised them. You have excluded them from the system. That is one. Two, you talk about the mode of primaries. For me, it is supposed to be at the discretion of political parties. Some parties are big, some parties are small. Big in the sense that you have access to funds. In the past, political parties have grants from a federal government. Political parties, nobody's property. Today, parties are left to fund themselves. And for that reason, it is difficult for political parties to operate at equal levels. So if we are going to compete, the conditions for competition must be fair to all the competitors. If my party is going for indirect primaries, maybe it's because my party doesn't have money. Okay, to embark on to undertake the logistics or what it takes, the rudiments of the logistics that you need to conduct the primary election, the direct primaries. But where you say consensus, what does it do? Because people might come, or aspirants will come. Okay, we want to compete. I want to contest. I want to contest. You want to contest, and then you are asked to either go for direct primaries, which you cannot embark on because of resources. You have to choose one person. But the one man, I feel, everybody feel, no. This, I have the numbers. You have the numbers. He has the numbers. So what do? Go to the field. So whoever comes out of the field, that is the person that is chosen. Then the rest will work together. But where you said consensus, for me, you have confined people tactically to agreeing or reduce or narrow the path to electing people. It is not agreeable to me.
Thank you so much. I saw that Prof wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
I will respond to two things. When we say electronic copy, we're not saying that you should go and do an online registration. All political parties have been submitting hard copy from soft copies because they type the name of the candidate, the name of their members, and put in a soft copy. Then they print that hard copy and submit to INEC. Now, what the law is saying is that that same copy you type, you can submit it along with the hard copy. So, no party has been submitting handwritten lists of their members. They've been submitting lists that they have typed already. That's already an electronic copy. So I think we should not be taking electronic copy from online registration of membership. So I think that's one thing I want to correct. Secondly, I want to also correct Amadi, who said that in 2015, we had direct primaries and we turned up with about 40 million voters. The numbers are not correct. But let me just also put it this way. As a party, we've learned our lessons, where we went wrong, and what was wrong with our processes. And we're correcting every bit of mistake we've made. And that's what brought about the online registration so that we can have, and we tie it to NIMSI database. And that has helped us to clean up our data and ensure that we have a correct list of registered members of our party. While doing what others have not done, please come and learn from us rather than maybe criticizing what we've done. Because for every mistake we made, we learn from it and correct it. So I think you should also thank us for correcting for correcting our mistakes, because they also have their mistakes. And then lastly, what I want to add also is the complaint of saying that APC is taking advantage of our numbers in terms of funding. No, what we did, every member in APC pay membership dues. So we have membership dues, which we collect from our members as part of our funding mechanism, and all the forms that we pay from the ward to the local government to the state. No political party, in real sense, if they follow the membership alone, because all the exco of any political party in Nigeria, from the ward to the local government to state to zonal to national, are over 1 million people. So even just membership dues and the cost of your forms alone can offset any bill you can do and run direct primaries if you actually have the members. Maybe you don't have members. That's the reason why. Because that's the truth. Because any party that has members, truly have members, only the exco of your party alone, the sense of form from ward to local government, to state, to zonal, to national, can fund those projects we're talking about. So I think people are mistaking funding from members, and maybe because they have limited number of people, including ADC, because you don't have people, you don't have numbers, and that can raise funding for them. They're saying, and so I think maybe.
Excuse me. So what I want to say, I do understand. All the parties have an electronic register.
Yes.
But the inclusion, okay, the review that you have to go back and begin to put NIN and all, the time to do all that is, and then the time for primary election, it is difficult to meet up, if not impossible. I don't see any party that will be now that doesn't have whatever your register that you have to start going back now to review.
Just one quick one. Okay. Yeah. It's not about membership. I mean, like you said, from report, ADC is hitting 10 million. I don't know what it is, but it's about procedure. You see, we should understand that it's not about the outcome, 10 million, 5 million. My concern is that always about INEC, the regulator, that you have to make rules in a manner that gives everybody confidence. But the small parties you mentioned about, you need to factor what's their concern. I mean, at the end of the day, INEC has to decide. Again, just to make this quick point, people talk about this electronic transmission overheard it. Another issue. Now, the only problem was that the same INEC was the one who went to court to excuse their failure to transmit. INEC argued that their regulation was discretionary. And the court said yes, that's the first problem. Now, the court has made it mandatory on paper. But that proviso now that says that the default mode will now be that you could have 30% or 20 non-transmission. And the chairman was right. Nothing about real time here. The question is that after you have finished this, the work, the paper, the sign, if you don't transmit to the IRF, clause 38 of INEC's regulation was very clear. You do 3 modes of transfers. You do 1 to the IRF, 2 to electronic collection system, 3 manually. So INEC always follow manual, but they look at the rider here. In clause 48, if how to collect, which supersedes, in section 94, so if there's neither electronic nor IRF, the rule says you have to now collect from the police officers, DSS, and others. So 2022 was actually good enough law. What failed was that INEC could not explain why there was glitch in the presidency that was known in the legislative, which was an error that the nation should have said, explain to us, forget court, explain what happened. It wasn't a deliberate sabotage. That would have helped us, and that's what people said. They would go to court and say, oh, it's because there's guideline. It's discretionary. And the court, or wisely, says it's discretionary. How can you guarantee the actions in Nigeria? Well, you have to move, sir. You said you're going to move to 3 kilometers, 10 kilometers to collect. And along the road, there could be multiple alterations on the hard copy. That was why INEC was wise to say, real-time IRF is there for verification. The electronic collection is there for storage in case and judicial evidence. So if we now make this electronic transmission optional, or in fact, by default, it's now optional. My recommendation is that we can still amend this law. By the way, President Tinubu amended the national anthem in 1 day. Let there be a consensus to amend this section and put back electronic, allow INEC to provide usually through their regulation. INEC captures the event of failure. Finally, communication is not just electronic. This is a bad law. It could go for anything, including poor communication from headquarters to the polling officer. Even if you have internet, the polling officer may refuse to transmit on the basis that there was no communication.
All right.
We should amend this law quickly.
All right.
This section is very important.
We need to take responses from the audience members, and I have one person already. Please, your name, your organization, and your question. Please, straight to the point because of our time.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Mr. Jordan Bauer. I'm a director of Community Engagement, Youth in Parliament Forum. My question is very simple and straightforward, which is rooted from the patriotic point of view. While the Electoral Act 2026 introduces commendable reforms, what specific weaknesses or implementation gaps do you foresee in the amendment, particularly regarding electronic transmission, campaign finance monitoring, and enforcement of electoral offenses? And also, what safeguards has INEC put in place to prevent these weaknesses from undermining our electoral integrity? Thank you very much.
Those questions are for the INEC chairman.
Yes.
Because it looks like they are for the INEC chairman. All right, please, you may have your seat. Thank you so much. Next person, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Osoin Taiwo. I'm a private citizen. I'm not representing any organization. My question is to the chairman of INEC. Unfortunately, you spoke for about 7 minutes, and I'm very sure you did not impress Nigerians. You highlighted the challenges that we may envisage in the forthcoming elections. And where you concluded was by the grace of God. That is very depictable and unprecedented. It only shows that you are hanging the fate of Nigerians in the hands of God. The question I'll ask you, Professor Amotoku, is very simple. What are the ways of solving the logistical problems in the forthcoming elections in terms of logistics and in terms of technology? Be apt on this question and answer Nigerians what we want to hear in terms of the problems and the solutions to be derived. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Sorry, I need to take 2 questions from online participants. Quickly. I see one from X, and this is from Kane MC. He says, good move bringing this forward. Key questions. What will voters actually feel different in 2027? How does the act improve real-time transparency? What happens when violations occur? Because laws don't build trust, execution does. It looks like a lot of questions are coming from the INEC chairman, even if he's not on stage here. Let me take another question on online. Yes, this one is from Facebook, from Andrew Mashisoko Samaila. He's asking, which result is used for the election result declaration, manual or IREV? Those questions are basically for the INEC chairman. But before I allow the panelists to leave and allow the INEC chairman to exit, going forward in the next election, what are your biggest fear based on this law? Dr. Sam Amadi is saying, do another amendment before the election. Do you think that's
absolutely another amendment will be needed? My biggest worry is actually for INEC, because direct primaries, including even consensus, are going to come with their own consequences, and INEC will really be very overwhelmed. At the moment in this country, political parties are the only conveyor belt to power. So if there's no compliance within political parties themselves, of course, they are not, I think in Nigeria they say lion not a born goat. So I think in that aspect, whatever they produce, we really have to take.
All right.
So I think for me, that is my biggest fear. Yeah.
Prof, do you think we need to amend the law again immediately? Just like your very good friend Sam Amadi. That section, actually.
For me, no.
Why not? Because it favors your party, sir?
No, not at all. Let me just give you the issue of transmission. You know, if I pick a machine to snap a result, I'm the only person that have access to that machine. Nobody else, other people are sitting behind the machine. Nobody will know whether I've snapped the result or not. I can decide not to snap the result. I'll hold as if I've snapped, and move the machine away, and go to safety, and then correct what I want to correct, and snap and transmit at my convenience. So enforcing that transmission of results should be used to validate the result comes with the lapses, because you're having an unencrypted process, and then everything is manual all through, and then you say want to now convert to become electronic and then transfer it. You can't use a third-party result to validate a result, a primary election, because you must use the primary result for validation, not a secondary result for validation. Assuming the process all through electronic, then it becomes a primary outcome. But you can't use a secondary outcome to validate a primary outcome. And to me, that's why I feel the act now suffices.
All right. Dr. Sam Amadi?
Well, just a quick report. I think there's a confusion here, and the learned SAN understands this very clear. The result that you take by Beavers is actually original. He captures it and puts it there. By the way, the Supreme Court uses the same Beavers for accreditation and says any result that is more than the accredited number is the same Beavers that uploads the accreditation. So the question is not about which is primary or secondary. The question asks itself, what was the mischief that this thing wants to solve? The only mischief is that when we finish voting, Imo, somebody used gunshot, ordered a return officer, INEC, a professor, to declare fake result. Imo East Senatorial. The matter came to INEC officials, some of the departments say, well, the election has been concluded, has been declared. Some say no. That's why INEC started saying, we want to guarantee the validity of declared result. So what the IREF does for us, and this is very clear, so we don't mix it up. IREF is like If I finish voting, you declare the result, and I go home, and I say Party X has scored 40. And on reaching to the collection center, it's now 5. How do I know? There's something that was sent at the most opportune time after closure of polling that INEC has in the electronic collection and in the IRF that we can see.
All right.
So at the collection center, look at it, like he said, you look at it and say, this result I'm supposed to collate, like Senator said, is not the result that has been uploaded when the poll finished and signed by all the Prof. What will he lose if there is a retrievable digital result that you,
your agent, we need to go. So quickly,
what will he lose? What will NBC lose?
We need to go.
I don't understand.
Ms. Gregory, quickly, your final word.
So I think that the diversity of the ballot depends entirely on the integrity of the primaries. So if we can hold political parties and all other stakeholders accountable, then we are able to get the results that we deserve as Nigerians.
Thank you so much. IPAC Chairman, your final word.
I made my position clear earlier, but what I want us to look at is not just, I don't want us to concentrate on this election alone. The problem we have in this country is that we like looking at the symptoms of problem, we don't look at the foundations of the problem. So IPAC made recommendations to the National Assembly Joint Committee on Electoral and Constitution. First we have to, we look, one of our suggestions is the appointment of INEC chairman and the commissioner to be taken away from the executive first. We also recommended that funding of political parties be restored because the account or the transactions or spendings of political parties subject to INEC auditing. So we must look at this, and then we also made recommendations that women, IPAC really talked about women's inclusion because we have the constitution or the system as we have did not really guarantee participation of women in the system. So, and a few other and then most importantly is the effect of corruption.
All right.
And we must not concentrate our democracy only at the national and state level.
All right.
There is no governance at the local government.
All right. Thank you so much.
The same law that created, that set up INEC, set up a state independent electoral commission. But what is done at the local government, which is the closest government to the people, is nothing compared to election. So we must look at
Alhaji
that.
Dantale. Thank you so much. Alhaji Dantale, by the way, is the national chairman of IPAC, Interparty Advisory Council. And Ms. Vanessa Gregory is a member of the Nigerian Women Trust Fund. Thanks so much indeed for your time. Dr. Sam Amadi is a lawyer and a member and representative of the ADC, the African Democratic Congress. Thank you so much indeed. And Professor Nentawe Yutwada is the APC National Chairman. Thank you indeed for coming. And he used to be in INEC, so his insider information an advantage. And Father Arthur Brackendo is of the Cooker Center. Thank you so much indeed, and a friend of the house and the network. But we'll give Professor Amopitan 1 minute to quickly respond to those questions. Those questions were directly targeted, for INEC.
Thank you very much. I want to state and restate here that INEC is for all. INEC is an impartial umpire, and the burden of this country rests on the soldiers of INEC. Now, you see, there are a lot of, maybe I wouldn't want to say misinformation. Sir, ADC, let me assure you, the beavers you are talking about, everything is there now. No, just hold on. The beavers, the accreditation number is in the beavers.
They are there. Show us.
The result that is scanned is in the beavers. Even whatever problem, on the strength of beavers, you can resolve it.
Correct.
Even without resorting to IRF.
Correct.
Everything is there. But people will not check it and watch it.
But it's not being resolved, sir.
That is one. No, everything. Beavers in every polling unit has
It's
all
true.
the details.
It's true. It's true.
So number two, I have said that we are putting a safeguard that will ensure that what you send henceforth must tally with what you have in IRF. And in fact, there are so many things you should not even be saying for now.
Because people are trying to study your system. But at the same time, what we have put in place is very simple. Beavers, on the strength of beavers, if people are not lazy, beavers will give you all the facts and figures that you need without even going anywhere. That is number one. Then number two is the fact that there's already a safeguard. All those Edo you are citing and whatever happened should not happen again. Because the essence of this safeguard is to ensure that whatever you are sending to IREF must tally. If it doesn't tally, it will not go. And logistically, what we have done is to trade. Yes, I know there are a lot of manpower gap in terms of training of the ad hoc staff. And we are reviewing that. So there are so many things that we are trying to put in place so as to get the assurance.
Right.
But the problem we have is that there's complete lack of trust. And this is because there's no tradition. Amupiton should know that there are certain things he should not do. ADC should know that there are certain things they must not say. APC should know that there are certain things you must not do. The president must know that there are certain things he must not do. Ministers or what, the governors should know that tradition must evolve.
All right, Prof.
And so,
Thank you so much, Prof.
No, please, just give me 2 seconds. Timetable, sir. Timetable. INEC is as constrained as political parties. The reason being that the timeline was reduced. During the last AMA FCT election in 2022, you will recall what happened. After the Electoral Act was released, then the next thing, interpretation. The election was conducted under the repeal 2010 election. But when it came to the swearing in, the act had come into place. Political parties are engaged with all of them, even media. And I lamented the problem we had, that if I didn't go to the press, and that section, that law did not come into effect, then we'll not be able to issue any timetable. Because people will challenge it. I had to take a preemptive step, and we went to the press to declare the result. Because we don't know whether the National Assembly will be able to meet up. And we're having 360 days. If you don't release that timetable within the time, somebody will go to court and annul the whole process. And so what will be hope of Nigerian democracy?
Prof, sorry, because of our time. We still have one more panel session and we're totally out of time. Please stay with me because I might still come back to you, sir.
Thank you.
Please give me a moment. Don't be on the stage. A member of the network, of the Civil Society Network on Election Integrity, Mr. Larry Arugundade, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Founder of Fixed Politics and the former Minister of Education, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, thank you so much indeed for your time. And a former member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Inena Okeche. Thank you so much indeed for your time. The leader at Action Aid, Mr. Andrew Mamedu, who is also a member of the network. Thank you so much indeed for your time. One of the founders of Enough is Enough and led that organization for several years, Ms. Okwayemi Adamolekun, is also a member of the network. Thanks so much indeed for your time. And the man that talks inclusivity is Mr. Jake Epele, who has suddenly assumed the position of an elder statesman, who's also a member of the network. Thank you so much indeed for your time. I'll allow Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. By the way, I need to thank both of you, Honorable Ukeje and Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, for moving your flight and your movement and your schedule to fit into this. Thank you so much. This is quite important, and you saw it as much. We'll allow Dr. Obi Ezekwesili to give us an opener to this. What would you say with respect to what must happen before 2027?
Thank you so very much. And I want to say kudos to the network members that put up this very important town hall. I think that when we think of the integrity and legitimacy of the democratic processes, election as the cornerstone of what differentiates all other political systems from democracy, then merits the kind of attention that we're giving to it as citizens. Now, usually, when you think in terms of elections, you think of what happens pre, that is the lead to the election, during the election, and after the election. And sadly, for our country, all stages, all phases have been bedeviled by all kinds of political shenanigans. These shenanigans don't come from just the citizens. It's the fact that the political class of our country has decided that our political system and our democracy will not mature. And that's why it is sad that the opportunity we had to finally get the kind of electoral law that citizens would have absolute confidence in was botched. So what must we do? I think that number one, it is not yet over concerning the real-time electoral transmission of results at the polling units. The reason that it must not be over for citizens is simple. You know, average voter participation globally is 61%. Average voter participation in Africa is 60.2%. Our average voter participation has so sharply declined from the high that it started on, 1999 and 2000 and, was it 2003? Yes. And today, at least with the last election, average voter participation for us as a country was 26%. You cannot have a democracy where only 26% of the people are voting, and you call it a democracy properly so-called. So what it means is that the citizens are disavowing democracy. Now think of 2023 as 2023 as 26%. Do you know what the FCT election recorded? 14.8%. The municipal, which is half of the entire FCT territory, recorded 7.8%. I always say that in God I trust, but every other person must bring data. So, if I have brought this kind of data, and we're still pretending that we are a democracy, that's a pretense. Let's not pretend. What is the reason for this low participation? Well, number one is the fact that citizens don't even trust the electoral umpire. The electoral umpire is in trouble as far as citizens go. And so I can imagine someone who is newly appointed, sort of a bit, I saw your frustration trying to tell us that you're going to do the right thing. But you know what? We don't believe it. The reason, don't clap. I didn't come to get any claps. You know, the reason is simple. There has not been any promise made by INEC that it kept. None. The Gen Z generation that decided to register so much, with so much passion in 2023, were so let down, they were bruised out of the electoral process. Then, when the reform started for INEC law, it built up their confidence again. But what happened? Once again, shenanigans. So guess what the percentage, the data of public trust in INEC is by Geopoll? 68% don't trust INEC. That's a large number. So I want citizens to understand that there's a connection between democracy and governance. It's so connected. The correlation is so strong that those who think that this does not matter are making a big mistake. In this conversation, we're determining what will happen to the generation that's ahead. So one thing that must happen is we do need to stand down. Nigeria does not belong to the political class. Nigeria belongs to the Nigerian citizens. The Nigerian citizens are saying We want transparency, unfettered. Unfettered. And I can speak to this quickly, Sheung, by virtue of what I know about exceptions. When I came back home to do the reform of the public procurement in this country, there were some rules that governed public procurement processes. But it had exceptions. When I did the diagnostics to start the reform, do you know what? Most of the contracts in this country were being procured on the basis of the exceptions. Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? Like, literally, 90% of Nigeria's contracts were being procured on the basis of exception rules. So the exception had become what?
The norm.
The norm. And when impunity becomes the way of life, there is absolutely no pathway to progress of society. So we should not take the provisos that are added to the electronic transmission of voters as though it is something that just accept it like that, manage it, as Nigerians normally say. No managing. The citizens of this country want transparency, and they must get transparency. That's number one. Number two, Sheung, and I'll give you the mic. Number two is that pre the election for 2027, we already see a sample of what would happen through the FCT elections. There was voter suppression. The fact that people were going to 5 polling units looking for their names, that's already an exclusionary thing going on there. In a decade where disruptive technology has given us incredible possibilities, that should not be something we take lying low. So we do need to audit the FCT election and the processes that happened in order to give us insight into what is ahead of us in 2027. And a coattail to that is that pre-2027, here we are with such intimidation of the opposition. Those of us who are citizens, who don't belong to a political party, we see what's going on. And that enables me to say that if the ruling party continues to intimidate opposition in the way that it is doing, it is simply putting a death knell to democracy. Because democracy does not allow for shrinking spaces of participation. And by the way, citizens, the final word, if you think you don't matter, you're making a big mistake. You matter. A party that has found a way to get more than 80% of the states is afraid of transparency in elections. Don't you know what that means? It means that it already called the result for itself in a transparent election. And therefore is doing everything necessary to stop it. So what we must do is that citizens must gain their agency and collectively work, if not for themselves, for their children and for the children that will come through their children.
This election in 2027 and the 2 ones before it will not necessarily be fought at the level of the polling units. It will be fought at the level of public opinion. And we do know how technologies have become a problem, the manipulations that come with artificial intelligence and the deepfakes. And so to that extent, we must call out whoever engages in disinformation, up to and including the political parties and their spokespersons. Because people, when you talk of disinformation, the tendency is to look in the direction of the media or the social media. But our research in the past has also shown that political parties sometimes will disseminate videos of rallies, supposedly, but are actually videos of spectators at a football speech, at a football match. So we must call out whoever engages in disinformation. And I think that the media responsibility would also include the fact of holding not just INEC accountable,
Of course, part of what we would expect from INEC as media is proactive dissemination of information, explaining processes, crisis communication, when there are problems, because we are in 24/7 life now, such that you don't have to wait till the following day before you issue a press statement. You can issue press statements or statements even at midnight at 1 a.m. In any case, when elections are being conducted here, Nigerians in the diaspora are watching or monitoring that election through different time zones. Now, beyond INEC, which we have to hold accountable, I think the media needs to hold the political parties much more accountable. The political parties get away with a lot of things. They sign peace accord when it's organized by the National Peace Committee through the Kukah Center, but they rarely follow that. They sign peace accord today, the following day there is violence. We must take records and say that you have, a responsibility. I also think that the media needs to thoroughly digest and understand this Electoral Act and use all means necessary, including indigenous languages, to disseminate the implications of the content to the people. I believe we are likely to help in that process as a citizens network on electoral integrity, because we've also talked about having a citizens version of this Electoral Act when all the amendments and the cleanup will have been done, so that Nigerians could actually understand all these provisions. So we do have a lot of responsibility, but what we want to say, and I think part of it, the last one, has to do with the security agencies. They must also be accountable. If you say you are going to deploy thousands of policemen to monitor elections, we want to know the extent to which you are provided for their welfare, and in fact, the impartiality of those policemen. Finally, Sheun, our security as media, our freedom, matters. And I want to use this opportunity to say that the Nigerian Media Code of Election Coverage, which came out of the media itself, mandates 4 institutions to do everything it can to ensure that the media is able to report elections fairly and accurately. First is the INEC, I already talked about that. Second are the governments, particularly the security agencies, who must not in any circumstance molest journalists that are accredited to cover the elections. Then the civil society too must be open to us, and the political parties must hold their agents responsible whenever, out of overzealousness or out of the fact that they think journalists are working for opposition. It's not the making of journalists that some of them work with politicians who own the media. But I want to say that we are committed to ethical reporting of the elections, and political parties must also protect us. I think that this should be the essence of what the media should be doing between now and 2027.
I believe that the job of the legislature is to collate the aggregate opinion of a critical mass of the Nigerian people, and clearly that's not what happened with this law. The House of Representatives, to which I belong, passed the right law and turned around and did a volte-face, and I'm still concerned about what could have transpired with that. Now, what has happened is that here we are, stuck with a piece of legislation that leaves Nigerians bruised, concerned, and of course, the burden has been passed to INEC. Okay, so I believe that ahead of that, in the words of Kofi Annan, he says that democracy is too important to be left to politicians. And so I believe that it must be an all of society engagement. And I think that ahead of 2027, there's certain people that I have penned down that should be the critical stakeholders in what happens ahead of 2027. Even if, and I know that people are still optimistic that there may be an amendment, I am not that optimistic, but in the event that there is an amendment, it will be absolutely wonderful, but in the event that there is not, we have to deal with making the lemonade out of the lemon that my colleagues at the National Assembly have served us. So I put down 5 critical stakeholders: INEC, the judiciary, civil society, media, security agencies, political parties, and I left the best for the last, the citizens. With regards to INEC, everybody has spoken about everything that INEC should do. They should do the technological appraisal, they should do a fire drill on logistics, they should know that they shall be held accountable. But I think one thing that is very important, and we never really talk about it, and everybody speaks about security agencies, is that for these elections to be truly inclusive, Every time us politicians speak about 26 years of unbroken democracy, somehow we forget the security agencies who provide the space that makes it safe for us to run in this election. Now, I've asked myself the question, why are the security agencies partisan? Because they do not feel that they have a stake. Most security agencies have never, in 8 election cycles, have never voted in any election. And that is because they're essential services. They're posted away from where they register, therefore they do not feel that they're a critical stakeholder in the electoral processes. In other countries, in Ghana and across the continent, there's something known as early voting, where they give them the opportunity to vote ahead of everybody so that they feel that they are indeed a part of the electoral process. I think it is something that INEC needs to look at, so that the security agencies don't feel that it is us against them, but they feel that they're a critical part of the Nigerian electoral process, and therefore we must include them in the elections. Second of all, and of course without prejudice to everything that has been said about INEC, I also think that INEC has spoken about glitches, and INEC has spoken about hacking, and my colleagues in the National Assembly hacking. I think that we must look at the infrastructure around INEC as critical infrastructure in the same way as we look at oil installations. So that if it is going to be put in the cyber crimes law or whatever law, I think INEC will do very well to send a piece of legislation to the National Assembly to look at the way in which they protect the IREV and whatever it is, so that the arguments on hacking no longer rear their ugly heads when we're having conversations about protecting INEC. Now I'll go to the judiciary. And Antiobi here spoke about low voter turnout. Now, of course, everybody has spoken about, and I wish the APC chairman was here. But the greatest problem that most of the political parties have, and why everybody seems to be cross-carpeting to the APC, is not necessarily because they think that the APC is better run, nor do they think that the policies of the APC are good. It is because most of the other political parties are embroiled in litigation, and therefore people within the political parties do not feel that they will have expression in that political party, in those political parties. Now, this is aside from the fact that there is a Supreme Court judgment that says that political parties must have the opportunity to, that the courts don't have the mandate to adjudicate on issues of political parties. They should not speak about who's supposed to be the chairman of the party and so on and so forth. But what has happened, and the scariest case before a court today is the one where they're attempting to deregister the ADC. Now, what that has done is that the people within those political parties don't have the confidence to sit within those political parties, and so you find that politicians are starting to migrate to all the other political parties. I believe that when one looks at what happened in the United States with the Supreme Court, and they protected their democracy, that the judiciary in Nigeria is a critical stakeholder in protecting our democracy, and therefore the judiciary must do everything to dispense with all the cases so that the political parties, the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, the ADC, and so on and so forth, now can have the confidence of the citizens. Of course, the civil society. Every story that is told in Nigeria about moving from the military to the to civil rule, and there's this whole debate about whether it's civil rule or whether it's democracy. But everybody who has done that, every time civil society comes out and speaks about the central role that they played in that. Now, today, what we find, and every time I engage with people who are of civil society, I ask them, was this the democracy that we envisaged? If you have birthed a child, and the child is running rogue on you, then it is the responsibility of civil society to whip that child into line. I've always made the point that if the civil society could bend soldiers with absolute power and wrest power from them, then why can't they be more alive to their responsibilities? And they are doing a lot, but I would like them to do even more in trying to whip civilians whose only gun is weaponizing institutions that are supposed to protect our democracy.
Yeah. Sorry, apologies. Mr. Andrew Mamedu, it's your time.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think the biggest challenge is that Nigerians are too trusting. So we trust our politicians, we trust INEC, we trust the political parties, but time and time again, we get burned. So the question is, if we continue in this trajectory, are we ever going to see our country develop? Election is a means to an end. It's about good governance. And government is so powerful that it determines the kind of knowledge I acquire. Government can make a rule that says this color of vehicle can no longer move in Nigeria, and that becomes the law, and it's operational. So government is so powerful. However, there is, under John Locke's theory, there is that division that says that as powerful as you are, as citizens, we then have a right to put you in power and to remove you from power. And that is what we are saying. Our election has to be transparent. The major power of the citizen is, if I like what you have done in 4 years or in 3 years, and I see that it is good, I will re-elect you if you are supposed to be re-elected. And if I see that what you have done is not good enough, I then bring you down. So the question around, should we accept this or not? Are you trying to force it down on citizens? We had several engagements on this process, and we are still saying that from all conversation, major conversation here today, we are still saying that this law has got to change. We want the electronic transmission majorly to be changed, and we have time to do that. It's time for citizens to move from town hall to the streets. It's time for citizens. So we engage with government from cooperation to confrontation. We work with INEC, with the current INEC logistic framework as an organization, ActionAid. And we sit on the round table to do conversation, to do all this kind of engagement. But again, if we are not getting the kind of cooperation, the kind of engagement we require, the onus done on us to make sure that we push for things that will make them listen to us. The Constitution enables us. Shehu, I was in National Assembly during this protest, and guess what? When we were doing the protest, we were careful not to be seen working with politicians. Why? Because the political parties or the politicians would then say, oh, all of these people are being partisan because we are civil society. So we're careful not to be seen with this party or that party. So we'll be able to separate ourselves. But at this point, all Nigerians need to come out. It's going to be a case around, how do we get the National Assembly? How do we get the executive? How do we get INEC? How would an INEC official finish his or her service and get rewarded with an appointment in government? Right. We need to ask ourselves that question. In my organization, this organization, if you leave the organization for 1 year, you don't have any consultancy, anything to do with the organization. That should be what we will be doing with INEC. So the INEC will not be jumping around themselves, trying to please the ruling party. Right. So those are the actions we need to take going forward.